Some business to take care of, and then we're going to get into it. So, first and foremost, hey, mostly things you've heard before, but I met a couple new people tonight, so hey, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. We do have a text system. If you don't know about our text system, it's super easy. If you're not on it, it's the best way to keep involved or know what's going on or what's happening. Like today, I sent one out that said Pete's going to yell, and Amanda's going to bring ice cream. It was awesome. And Amanda brought ice cream, and Pete yelled. No. Text system's good to join. Instagram's a good one, too, just because it's simple to follow, at garage_HS. Wednesday, we do not have small groups, okay? So normally we have small groups every Wednesday, but this Wednesday we do not because we have a whole leader thing that we're doing. Yeah, you can say boo, I guess, to Jesus. I don't know. What are you saying? I like that you suck, Jeremy. That was funny. Okay. So, yeah, we do a whole leader thing, so we just want to get ready for the next season. So no small groups Wednesday, but I will see you again Sunday, and then the Wednesday after that we'll kick back in. So just one more Wednesday. You have to make it through it. I promise you can do it. I hope. Yeah, I don't know, Johnny Carl. You might not make it. Yeah, it's terrible. Lastly, and most sadly, is that a proper word? Saddishly. Okay, you guys know Keon, our best friend? He's right there. Keon leaves tomorrow for Chicago. So actually, I'm going to have him come stand in the center of the room. We're just going to pray over him really fast. Keon, get up here. Right here. He can't even make it up. People are just hugging him. That's cool. All right, hey, do me a favor. Just if you want to come up here, and we're just going to lay hands on Mr. Keon. Can you come closer so I can do this? I'm putting my hand on your head. Okay, we're just going to pray over Keon really quick. Keon has been our intern all summer. You totally have to, but you can push your hand out. Keon's been our intern this summer. He has to go back to school, but he told me that he wants to come back at the end of the semester, so we might see him in January. Yeah, we'd love it. But I'm just going to pray really quick over him. Road trip to Chicago? Yeah! I don't want to. Let me just pray for Keon, our favoriteest intern that we've ever had. Sorry, Bryce and Amanda and Jordan and all the other interns we've had. Yeah. Yeah, they suck. All right, let me pray. Jesus, thank you for Keon. Thank you for the heart that he has just to serve you. God, it was so cool, just the conversations we had, and it's so obvious. He just loves you. Man, and I'm so jealous of that love sometimes. It's such a passion, and it rubs off on everybody around him. God, I just pray as he enters into his last semester at school that you help him think clearly and be able to test well and finish well and be able to get through the last few classes. And he's jumping into marriage. We just ask that you bless his marriage and bring him back to us real soon. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. All right, thanks, Kia. What? Yes and no. And Savannah, and Sophia. Yes. It's a little different since they're not an intern. Yeah, and they're actually Mason, they have a couple more weeks, each of them. Yeah, she just told me. The girls. Yeah. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. All right, anyway, not important. Okay. Hey, welcome to Garage. Glad you guys are here. This is for 9th to 12th graders. I'm Jeremy. I've been gone for a little bit. How you guys been? Holy cow. I feel like it's been like a couple weeks. That felt like a long time, though. I missed some of you. I didn't miss anyone over there. They were big meanie heads. That crew's meanie heads. The rest of you are nice, kind souls. I don't know about you, Benny Boo. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. Yeah, glad to be back. Hey, let me give you just an update of what's going on over the next few weeks. So tonight we're going to talk about, I don't want to get into it yet. Wednesday we won't have small groups. Sundays we're going to start a whole new series based on Genesis 24, and I'll explain more of that. And then we'll jump back into small groups, and so as soon as school starts back up. But here's what to look forward to in the future. Very soon we have this thing called Liftoff. It's one of the biggest parties of the year, and we're excited for that. That comes in September, okay? That's a great way to invite someone who doesn't go to church or hasn't been to church in a long time. And then we have Local coming up very soon again in October 8th, 9th, and 10th. And then we do something called Garage-a-Ween, which is a real fun party that we have here about Halloween. And then we have Winter Camp coming up right after that. It's pretty quick. So lots of things going on. I'll send you out a schedule soon for those of you who like to plan things. All right? Here's where we're going today. I'm going to give you the answer already so that those of you who are like just here to stare at the girl that you think is really pretty, maybe you can just catch this one sentence. Who did you all point at when I said that? Oh, you're staring at Mason. So if you're distracted by Mr. Moon's beautiful attire, whatever he is, I'm going to give you the answer so that the rest of the time you can zone out and just stare at the back of his head. I don't know, something weird. I mean, I would do it, but... All right, here's what you got to learn. Here's what you got to know. And if you could get this in your head, it will be helpful. It could be helpful and actually might help not only you, but Parker, the students in Parker, the next generation, the people around you. It might actually influence our culture. Because remember, if you remember the stories in the Bible, right, if you know the Bible at all, one of the things you know, even if you don't know the Bible, one of the things you probably know is there was this guy named Jesus, and Jesus had 12 disciples, just 12. And with 12 people, he changed the universe. Just 12 people. With 12 people, he changed the entirety of all of our futures. Whether you believe in Jesus or not, he changed your life. My question to you tonight is going to be, if Jesus could do something with 12, I know we're not Jesus, but if he could do something with 12, how much more can we do in this group, can we do in this room if there's 100 of us? It says in John, Jesus says to his disciples, which he ends up saying to us, our apostles, he says, you will do greater things than I did. Jesus says that about us. We can do greater things than Jesus did because of the power of the Holy Spirit. And so if Jesus only had 12, if he only had a group of 12 that changed the world, can you imagine? Can you imagine if we decided, I'm putting my foot down and we are doing this? We are changing the world. We're changing the perception. We're changing our schools. We're changing our families. We're changing the way people see Christians. We are going to make a change, and we demand to be different. Can you imagine if we walk out of this room and most of you start school on Tuesday? I know that sucks. Can you imagine if Tuesday morning we woke up and said, this year is different? This year is not just another year that's going to float by. This year is not going to be another year that I barely make it. This is not going to be a year where I go into every single class depressed and complaining, but instead I walk into school saying, I am the light of the world. Can you imagine if we walk around knowing that Jesus is holding our hand and saying, I just want to use you. I just want to use you to spread my gospel, to bring the good news, to bring joy and hope to people in this world. Can you imagine if we decide to stack hands together like you do in a team and say, we're going to do this. We're going to be different. We're going to change. We're no longer just going to float through life and say, yeah, I got this Jesus thing. Instead, I'm going to say, everything I do, everything I say, every single person I talk to, somehow I represent Jesus. That is how you change the world, because you're so on fire for Christ. I see it in your hearts. I see it in your eyes. I know it's time. We're at a place where there's no more excuses. No longer can we run through and say, yeah, I got this Jesus guy, and it's good because he wants me to have a good life. BS. That is not what Jesus' purpose is. He is not just there for you to have a good life. That might be a part of it. But he saved us from a damned hell. And then he says, let me fight with you. We have to hit a point where we're no longer lazy and lethargic. We have to hit a point where we no longer barely make it to youth group because I got so many other things going on. We have to hit a point where it's not good enough just to say I'm a Christian, but that when I walk into a room, everybody knows it because of how I act, because of how I talk, because of how I dress, because of how I text or use social media. Every single person can look at you and say, there's something different. There's something different about you. I don't know what it is, but there's something different. That's all it was with the 12 disciples. They were different because they cared about Jesus first. It wasn't an afterthought. It wasn't, I got nothing better to do on Sunday night. It wasn't, I guess I'll go to this Bible study. It wasn't just, well, I guess I have time for this. It wasn't just, I guess there's cute Mason in the front row. I guess I want to go hang out with him. It was, Jesus is first and foremost, and I love him. Have you ever met somebody? Golly, I'm going on a rant. Have you ever met somebody in love with Jesus? I mean, my gosh. It wasn't until my late 20s that and I grew up in church, I finally met somebody who's in love with Jesus. Have you ever met somebody that just is saying he's just on fire for Jesus? That is a person that everybody wants to be around, even if they don't believe in Jesus. Because when you're in love with Jesus, not only do you care about others, you put others first. Not only do you put others first, but your needs are less important. Not only are your needs less important, but for some reason you can smile when we still have to wear masks, or when the world takes you down, or when someone's beating you up, and somehow you can say, I have joy in the Lord. That's someone who's in love with Jesus. If you've never been in love with Jesus, please pick up that dusty Bible that you have. If you don't have one, I'd love to give you one. And read. I personally like John. It's kind of like a chapter in the Bible, but we call them books of the Bible. Read John and just realize what this man is. He is God, and he sits with you in everything you do. Can you imagine if tonight we walk out of here saying, I'm in love with Jesus, and every person around me is going to know it? Every person around me is going to know that I'm that guy, I'm that girl, I'm that person who loves Jesus. Yeah, I screw up. Yes, I make mistakes, and yes, I fall. We all do. But I love Jesus with everything I've got. And I'm going to deny things that don't make me love Jesus more, and I'm going to accept things that make me love Jesus more. And I'm going to embrace things that say, this gets me closer to my goals of knowing and loving Jesus, and I'm going to kick the door down on things that don't matter, that take up space, time, and energy. Because I love Jesus. That's what matters. Whew. Today, here's what you got to know. Today, your reputation, we're talking about reputations. Your reputation is the foundation of someone else's salvation. Someone wrap that down. Your reputation is the foundation of someone's salvation. Everybody has a reputation. The second you walk into a room, whether you like it or not, you get judged. It's not right. It's absolutely wrong. We do it. We're terrible. We try to say we won't do it, but it happens. Can you imagine if your reputation did this? If your reputation, if how people knew you, as how people saw you interact and act, was the foundation of someone else's salvation because of how you are as a person. Somebody finds Christ. And because somebody finds Christ, not only does their life start to make sense and there starts to be joy, but they will also celebrate their millionth birthday in heaven. Your reputation is the foundation of someone else's salvation. The reality is this. Your reputation means a lot, whether you want it to or not. Unfortunately, you guys know what this is like. You can probably tell me about the fifth grade. In fifth grade, you had a smelly kid. There's always a smelly kid in fifth grade. I think fifth grade's that one turning point where they don't know how to use deodorant yet, you know. I was probably the smelly kid. I don't know. Probably, you know. I'm kind of a sweaty guy, so, yeah. You could probably think about, like, in 7th or 8th grade, you had, like, your first crush, you know. And you were always like, oh, the back of Mason's head is so hot, you know. That's a reputation, right? Well, because I keep looking at its beautiful blue eyes. No, I'm kidding. The reputation that you have, it means a lot. It sucks. I hate it. I hate that that's a reality, but it is. And I want to ask you, as you're starting school again, is it time to change your rep? Is it time to not think about your reputation as, how do people see me? You know, am I cool enough? Am I hot enough? Am I good enough? Am I known for soccer? Those might not be bad things. But what if we threw all of that junk out the door and said, all I care about is people see me as they see God. You're going to screw up. But could they look at you and say, that is a man or a woman after God's heart? They're a little weird. They're a little different, but that person loves Jesus. One of the things that I stand by, you've heard me say before, is you are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. It's something that I have to remind myself of too. You are under no obligation to be the same person you were 5 minutes ago. We constantly, if we want to follow Christ, if we want to know Jesus as our Savior, even if we're trying to figure out who Jesus is, we constantly want to change who we are inside and out. Because we want to be morphed and shaped into the person Jesus wants us to be. That's where we find true joy, happiness, and success. While you're starting school, as school's about to start, maybe this is the perfect excuse, the perfect opportunity to say, this year I'm different. What I post is different. What I say is different. How I act is different. For some reason, I'm going to choose to smile even when I don't have to. Because there's joy in the Lord. And I want to ask you this before we get into 2 Samuel. If you want to follow along in your Bible, 2 Samuel 11. I want to ask you this, especially as we're going into a new school year. If Christianity became illegal tomorrow, is there enough evidence to convict you? Is there enough evidence in your life for who you are to convict you? If someone did an investigation, they started asking your friends, they started diving into your social media, your text messages, what you search on the internet, is there enough evidence to convict you and they could say, yes, you're a Christian, you must go to jail? Or would it just be like, well, this person goes to something on Sunday nights, or this person goes to something on Wednesday nights? Is there enough evidence to convict you if Christianity became illegal tomorrow? It's something I ask myself all the time, even though the irony is I work at a church, right? And maybe that's not good enough, though. Is there enough in my life that would convict me that people know? If it became illegal, would someone rat you out instantly and say, well, I know that Jimmy guy because he's a Christian. I don't know much about him, but I know that he follows Jesus. Here's the problem, especially in high school, and it's the problem I had. And maybe you guys are perfect. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. But maybe you guys are definitely better than me. There's no chance you aren't. I screwed up a lot in high school, right? I made a lot of dumb decisions. I made a lot of people mad. I made a lot of people frustrated, I'm sure. And I made a lot of mistakes. And I constantly did. It wasn't like I could stop. I don't know. For some reason, I'm a human. I screwed up. And so I thought, that's as good as it gets. I thought, if somebody thought I was a Christian, they would see this idiot of a person who's a hypocrite or who's fake. And I want to look at a story in the Bible where we see a person who did the worst of the worst, and yet still he was defined as the man after God's own heart. Can you imagine if by the end of the school year somebody said that person, that girl, that guy, that person, they love Jesus? Yeah, sure, maybe they messed up here or they did that with that person, but they love Jesus. Because Jesus can be used and seen and shown through even our darkest days. So there's a guy named David in the Bible, 2 Samuel 11. A guy named David in the Bible. And David, he went through a crazy story, and I'd love for you to read it if you get a chance. But David, I would just want to point out this one time he screwed up. He actually screwed up a lot of times, but this one time he screwed up. You see, David was the king. So he was the most important person in the Israelite nation. He was the king of the Israelites. And in this scene, 2 Samuel 11 and 12, what's happening is the Israelites, the army, is out fighting another kingdom, right? They're out fighting, and David is sitting in his tower, safe and protected. And he's supposed to represent God. They called him Yahweh back then. Yahweh just means the Lord. And he was supposed to represent God. And one day, here we see David gets into some trouble. 2 Samuel 11, verse, the one I wanted to read. Yes, here we go. 2. This gets a little R-rated, so I'm going to skip a few parts for the innocent ears in here. Are any of you innocent? Yeah, probably not, huh? Trouble. Well, R-rated. I'll make it PG-13, okay? All right. 2 Samuel 11, verse 3. David sitting inside of his castle. There's his army is out at war. And he says this: as he looked out over the city, he noticed a woman of unusual beauty taking a bath. So he sent someone to find out who she was. And he was told, she is Bathsheba, the daughter of Ephraim and the wife of Uriah, the Hittite. Then David slid into the DMs, sent a messenger to get her. This gal is married, and still he's sliding in. It's never changed. Maybe you slide into DMs now. David, 3,500 years ago, slid in, sent a message. Same thing. When she came to the palace, he slept with her. Married lady, and he's married too. We all know that's against the rules. Regardless if you follow Christ or not, generally the entire world says that's immoral and wrong. What ends up happening? Verse 5. A month later, she comes back to David and says, David, I'm pregnant. Whoops. Talk about making a mistake. Beautiful mistake, I'm sure, but that's a whoops. So here's what David does. This is the worst part. Okay? Verse 6. He already screwed up. We know he did. Everybody knows he did. That's not a question. We know he screwed up. He committed what we call adultery. He's married. She's married. They didn't care. They had relations together. She gets pregnant. Now, instead of being a man and confessing and saying, you know what, I screwed up. Let's see how we can deal with it. Verse 6. What he does is he sends out a message to the husband, Uriah. And he says, bring him back home. Bring him back home. He needs a break from the war. I know you guys are fighting a battle. Bring him back home. And so he comes back home. And David says to the husband, he says, you just need a break. Why don't you go home and stay at your house for a couple nights? AKA, go sleep with your wife so that everyone will think you're the dad. He's trying to hide his sin. And he says, no, I'm not going to do that. My brothers are out there on the field fighting a war. I will not do that. So instead, he sleeps on the ground outside of the castle. So then David says, okay, that didn't work. Okay, how about this? Come in for dinner. We'll get really drunk. Verse 13, we'll get really drunk. And then maybe you'll go home to your wife. And still he said, no, I'm not going to do that. Maybe I ate and drank too much, but I'm going to stay here. Because my responsibility, my brothers are out there in a war. I don't feel right going home. I should be fighting this war. Next day, David says, all right, fine, that didn't work either. Okay, go back to the battle. David sends another messenger, and the messenger says, okay, captain, here's what you're going to do. You're going to put this guy in the front line, the very front of the battle where all the war's going on. And as soon as the worst part of the war is happening, you're going to say a secret code word. Make everybody else pull back, and this husband is going to be standing there alone so that he gets killed. This is exactly what happens. I mean, there's no roundabout way of saying it. He murdered a guy. Like a hitman, he murdered a guy. He murdered the husband of the girl that he messed around with. I say that. And the story kind of goes on. It's actually a really cool story. And you find out, you ever ask the question, how do you know when kids go to heaven? Chapter 12 will tell you all about it. Yeah, you have to read it for yourself. But what we see is David made one of the biggest mistakes in the world. He slipped up, did something he shouldn't do. Well, okay, we've all done that. Usually we get caught. And then something else happened. She got pregnant. Now there's no way I can hide this anymore because somebody's going to find out. Instead, I'm going to try to hide it by bringing in this guy to try to hide this thing, and instead it doesn't work out. So what does he do? He murders somebody. David does the worst of the worst. He does the worst thing possible. He is the worst sinner of all. And yet still, if we move forward in time and in our pages, we move forward about 2,000 years, 1,000 years, depending on what you believe. Call it 1,500. Acts chapter 13, verse 22. It says this. Actually, we can read it together. After removing Saul, this is Peter is talking to the people and telling the history of what happened in the Bible times, in the Old Testament. After removing Saul, he made David their king. God testified concerning him. I have found David, son of Jesse, a man after my own heart. He will do everything I want him to do. David's reputation, even though he screwed up, even though he was a sinner, even though he decided to drink that cup that one time at the party, even though he decided to go too far with his girlfriend or boyfriend, even though he screwed up, and instead of coming clean, he tried to hide it. He was known, his reputation was known as the man after God's own heart. Do not get trapped in the lie to believe you're not good enough to have a reputation that represents Jesus. It's not true. If you love Jesus, we all mess up. If you love Jesus, your reputation can still be and should still be that guy. He's different. That girl, she's different because she loves God. I'm going to have the band come up, and we're going to do just a couple things really quick to finish out, and then we'll jump into worship more. But here's the reality of what happens, right? The second that you want to change your status or your reputation, people call you a poser. People call you fake. People call you a hypocrite, right? That's going to happen. Can you imagine? David definitely got the same things. You'll have to ignore those. That's just someone, and maybe it's part of Satan trying to take you down. Do not let other people decide who you are. If you walk out of here tonight and say, yes, when I go to school tomorrow, when I go to school on Tuesday, I want to change my reputation. I want to be known as that person who's in love with Jesus. Don't let haters take you out. Don't conform to what they want. You're here to represent Christ. Your reputation is the very foundation of someone else's salvation. Because of what you do, what you say, how you act, and who you are as a person, someone else may be saved. I want to tell you a really quick story, and then we're going to split into groups really quick. I'll explain it, but all through high school, I wasn't very good at this, but some people still knew that I had blocked out Sundays, right? I had always go to church. I told my work I couldn't work on Sundays. It just was what I wanted to do. And so they knew that, and that was good enough for a reputation to be enough to where people knew I knew Jesus, right? I graduated 2007. It's kind of a long time ago. Yeah, I know. Oh, golly, stop. I know. You don't have to tell me I'm old. I know. That's a long time ago, right? Still, to this day, just, it must have been about 6 months ago, a kind of mutual friend that I didn't really know. You know how you know your school friends, and you have that school friend that are always like, hey, man, we should hang out sometime, and you never do, but you see them in class, and it's cool, like you cheat off each other's papers or whatever. One of those school friends I had, right, messaged me on Facebook and said, I know you're that Christian dude. I want to know more. It's like 11 years later. It's nothing I did. God knows I'm not good enough, but here's what happened. My reputation became the foundation for someone else's salvation because he knew that I knew Jesus. At some point, God used that. When you go to school this week, it is the greatest outreach opportunity you will have in your entire life. Let's do it. Jesus had 12. We have 112. Can you imagine? Can you imagine if people started talking? If they started saying, what's going on over in that other building that used to be a car dealership? Why does this person always come to school and is happy? Why is this person like singing funny songs that say Jesus in them? Why is this person ditching practice to be at small groups or whatever that is? Don't make it about Crossroads. I could care less about Crossroads, but can you imagine if people saw your representation? If they saw you and said, I want to try it. They're not going to want to try it if you're angry all the time or if you're frustrated all the time. They only want to try it if they know you're different because you have the joy of the Lord. What a difference we can make in Parker. I'd just like to spend 5 minutes, if we could, just 5 minutes. I'd like to split off in the room really quick, just in like schools. And I know it's only going to kind of work, so some of you go to goofy schools, and that's fine. But I'd like to split off into schools. And just spend a couple minutes, hey, eyeballing each other and be like, oh my gosh, I didn't know you go to school with me. That's cool. Hey, I'm excited that we go to the same school. We can high-five each other in school and be like, yay, Jesus. Wait, this is not funny. Yeah, that's funny. How'd you do that? How'd it keep playing? All right, anyway. And then I'd like to spend just 1 or 2, 3 minutes just praying. And I'm going to help guide that. We're going to pray for our teachers. We're going to pray for other students. We're going to pray that, man, COVID doesn't come back and we can have normal school, right? Just a couple minutes, and then we'll jump into worship. So this is how I'll do it. And I'm not sure. I have some leaders that are somewhere, but what color are you? Blue. Oh, Legend, yeah? Okay, so we'll put Legend over here. Where's Shap? Okay, Shap, you're going to be by that. No, actually, Shap, be about that door, okay? Shap's over there. Pondo. Jackson, you're Pondo, right? All right, so Pondo by this door. And then Lou High, I think, aren't we doing a Lou High one? Kendra, over here. And then I think we have the others is Pete. So Pete, how about you're just middle, right here, others. I'm sorry, others, and I didn't know what to do. I know there's a lot of others, and you could probably find out, like, you'll be like, oh, we go to the same school. Others also has homeschool, because Ryan was homeschooled, so he's going to tell you all about that. We could pray for our homeschool moms and teachers. And maybe you guys split, because others looks like it's going to get pretty big. Others, right here in the middle. And Pete, maybe really quick, we can see if others has, like, is there a majority one? I don't know. Like, is there a... Take a second to do that. Okay. So take about 1 minute and just see if you know everybody or know of the people that are at your school, and then I'm going to guide us through prayer. That's a good question. Cherry Creek District, you can put the districts together. That's a good idea. Yeah, I don't know, Stacy, if you got to... Stacy, you could hang out with our Denver friends. They're representing down there. Rock Canyon. Yeah, so that's like Hans Ranch. I don't know if there's a Hans Ranch. We have a couple. We had a couple of Valor kids, but anyway, you guys figure it out. Okay, as you're finding your group, I'm just going to ask that we spend some time in prayer. And this might be kind of goofy, and it might feel kind of awkward, but we're just going to give it a try. Here's what will happen is I'll open us in prayer, and then you can choose to pray in your circle, and then I'll close us in prayer. And I'm going to tell you exactly what to pray for. And you can obviously pray for other things if you'd like to. Yeah, I would say, especially like Legend, because you're a big group, and Shap, you're a big group. Hey, more than one person can pray at a time, and that's totally fine, okay? Because we need all the prayer we can get. We believe prayer is an artillery shell that we're throwing bombs at the enemy. So we're just going to pray over school, and then we'll jump into worship. All right, here we go. Let me just pray, and I'll help you pick what to pray for. Jesus, thank you. Thank you that, golly, you gave us so much. Help us to think about our reputation, not to glorify me, not to glorify myself, but to glorify you in your name. Students, and at this time, let's just take 1 minute and let's just pray for our teachers. Maybe it's the teachers you love or the teachers you don't get along with. Pray that they get to know Jesus and that they feel energized and refreshed for the school year. Let's just take 1 minute to pray for our teachers in your circles. Just another 30 seconds praying for our teachers. Okay. Jesus, thank you for our teachers. I just pray that you give them health and that they're able to teach the subjects that they have. God, and I just ask that let these students be a light into their lives. Let these students be a light to the teachers that don't know you yet. Okay, now we're just going to spend 1 minute just praying for other students. So maybe students you don't know, or think about, if you think about your last class that you had, that might have been a while ago, think about the student in like your first period who was sitting on your right and left. Can you pray for them by name? Otherwise, can you pray for a student that maybe you don't know, or the student that you do know, that we want them to know Jesus? Let's spend 1 minute just praying for other students. God, we just pray for all the students that are going either in Douglas County or Cherry Creek or Lehigh, or there's so many schools. God, we just ask that this year you keep them safe, help them to know you. And God, I just ask specifically for the students in this room and maybe the students who are listening to the podcast or online, that you use them to be a light in the lives of these other students. Okay, now we want to just pray for safety, specifically safety with health, right? Because we definitely don't want to go back to COVID. So can we spend 1 minute just praying about health, safety and health. So maybe safety with school buses. I don't even know if they're doing those this year, but also safety with health, that we don't have like some kind of outbreak and that students stay healthy. Just spend 1 minute praying for that. Okay, and then this last one's going to be a little different, all right? And you might have to ask them your name, but I'm going to ask you, and we're all going to have to pray at the same time. I'm going to ask you to pray for the person on your right. If you don't know their name, spend 1 second and just say, hey, tell me your name real quick, and how can I pray for you? How can I pray for you, specifically coming to school? Pray for the person on your right. And then we all get to pray all at the same time. God hears it, don't worry. And pray for the person on your right. And then just spend 1 minute doing that, and then we'll jump into worship.
Sing this out when you're ready. I've carried a burden for too long on my own. I wasn't created to bear it alone. I hear your invitation. Let it all go. I see it now. I'm laying it down, and I know lungs running to life from death, and I feel this rush deep in my chest. Your mercy is calling out, just as I am. God, you pull me in, and I know I need you now. Run to the Father, fall into grace. Done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart needs a surgeon, my soul needs a friend. So I run to the Father again and again. I run to the Father, fall into grace. Done with the hiding, no reason to wait. My heart found a surgeon, my soul found a friend. So I run to the Father again and again and again and The weapon may be formed, but it won't prosper. When the darkness falls, it won't prevail. 'Cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. And my God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. Come on, sing it out. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, Lord. turn it for good. Oh, you take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Come on, keep singing. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for
I'm sorry, guys, I can't. I've been up since 4 a.m. and I worked at another church down in Colorado Springs. I can't today.
Two things we say every week here. You are loved and prayed for, and you are accepted here, just as you are. I'd love to spend, even if you got 2 or 3 minutes, just to spend a few minutes in your small group. Remember, Wednesday we do not have small group, but I hope to see you next Sunday. Yeah. Maria said she'll do more songs next week. Yeah, let's just spend a few minutes in small groups. Go in peace, serve the Lord. Good night.